For over 4,000 years, the Egyptian pyramids have stood as eternal monuments to human genius and divine belief, rising out of the sands of the Sahara as if placed there by the gods themselves. They are the oldest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world and the only ones still standing. When we think of Egypt, we imagine the sharp angles of the Great Pyramid gleaming under the sun, the desert winds whispering through ancient stones, and the haunting sense of eternity. The story of the pyramids is the story of humanity's earliest and greatest dream, the dream of immortality. Over 5,000 years ago, along the fertile banks of the River Nile, civilization was thriving. The Nile's predictable flooding brought rich black soil every year, allowing crops to flourish and creating a society with food, order, and wealth. Out of this abundance rose the world's first unified kingdom, ancient Egypt. The Egyptians believed their king, the pharaoh, was both a human ruler and a living god. When the pharaoh died, he became Osiris, the god of the afterlife, and his spirit was expected to live forever. To ensure that eternal life, his body had to be protected, his soul had to be guided, and his memory had to be honored. This belief in eternal kingship led to the building of the pyramids. The earliest royal tombs were not pyramids but flat-roofed, rectangular mud brick structures called mastabas. These were simple yet sacred, housing the mummified remains of early kings and queens. Over time, as the Egyptian state grew richer and its rulers more divine, the tombs became larger, more complex, and more ambitious. Around 2630 BCE, a pharaoh named Djoser decided his tomb would surpass all that came before. His chief architect, Imhotep, one of the most brilliant men in history, conceived an entirely new form. Instead of one mastaba, he placed several of them, each smaller than the one below, creating a rising staircase to the heavens. The result was the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, the first pyramid ever built and the first large-scale stone monument in the world. Standing 62 meters tall, it changed architecture forever. Beneath it lay a vast maze of tunnels and chambers meant to hold treasures, offerings, and the spirit of the divine king. The Step Pyramid marked a turning point in Egyptian civilization. It proved that stone could be shaped, stacked, and engineered to last forever. Imhotep's design was so revolutionary that later generations worshipped him as a god of wisdom and medicine. Yet the Step Pyramid was only the beginning. Future pharaohs wanted not just stairways to heaven but mountains of eternity. They dreamed of smooth-sided pyramids that touched the sky. This ambition found its master in Pharaoh Sneferu, Djoser's successor, who ruled around 2600 BCE. Sneferu was a visionary ruler and one of Egypt's greatest builders. He experimented endlessly with pyramid design. His first attempt at Mihdam began as a step pyramid but was later transformed into a true pyramid by filling in the steps with stone. Unfortunately, the outer layers collapsed, leaving behind a strange, tower-like core that still stands today, part monument, part ruin, and part lesson in engineering. Undeterred, Sneferu tried again. His second pyramid at Dahshur, now called the Bent Pyramid, began at a steep angle but had to be altered halfway through because the structure was becoming unstable. The builders changed the angle, giving the pyramid its distinctive, bent, appearance. It was a bold experiment and brought Sneferu closer to perfection. At last, Sneferu achieved success with his third project, the Red Pyramid, also at Dahshur. This one was flawless. Built with reddish limestone and standing over 100 meters tall, it became the first true smooth-sided pyramid in history. The techniques perfected here, precise planning, careful alignment with the cardinal directions, and mastery of heavy stone movement, set the stage for the most famous pyramid of them all, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Sneferu's son, Pharaoh Khufu, known to the Greeks as Cheops, decided to build a monument so immense that it would humble the world. Around 2560 BCE, construction began on the Giza Plateau, a site chosen for its solid limestone bedrock and proximity to the Nile. What rose there over the next 2 decades was nothing short of miraculous. The Great Pyramid, a structure so vast and precise that even today, modern engineers marvel at its perfection. It originally stood 146.6 meters high and was made of about 2.3 million blocks of stone, each weighing between 2.5 and 80 tons. The base covered 13 acres, and the entire structure was aligned almost perfectly to true north. The question of how the pyramid was built has fascinated scholars and dreamers for centuries. Contrary to old myths, it was not built by slaves but by skilled workers, tens of thousands of laborers, masons, engineers, and farmers who worked in shifts during the flood season when their fields were underwater. They were housed in well-organized workers' villages, provided food, medical care, and even beer as part of their rations. Archaeological evidence shows they were respected and proud of their role in building their king's eternal home. The methods used were astonishingly clever for their time. Massive limestone blocks were quarried nearby and transported using sledges pulled over wet sand to reduce friction. Ramps made of mud brick and rubble likely helped raise the stones as construction rose higher and higher. The precision with which the stones were cut and fitted together is mind-boggling, so tight that even a sheet of paper cannot fit between many of them. Inside, the pyramid was a masterpiece of engineering. The king's chamber, made of enormous granite blocks from Aswan hundreds of kilometers away, was designed with relieving chambers above it to distribute weight and prevent collapse. Narrow shafts connected the chambers to the outside, perhaps symbolizing pathways for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the stars. When the Great Pyramid was completed, it shone like a star. Its surface was covered with polished white limestone casing stones that reflected the sunlight brilliantly. At its peak was a golden capstone, or pyramidion, that glittered under the desert sun. It was not just a tomb, it was a symbol of divine power, mathematical perfection, and eternal life. For nearly 3,800 years, it remained the tallest human-made structure in the world, unmatched in height until the Eiffel Tower in 1889. Khufu's successors continued his legacy at Giza. His son Khafre built the second pyramid, slightly smaller but standing on higher ground, creating the illusion that it was taller. Khafre also commissioned the Great Sphinx, the enormous limestone statue with the body of a lion and the face believed to be his own. The Sphinx symbolized royal power and divine protection, watching over the necropolis for eternity. The third pyramid, built by Menkaure, Khafre's son, was smaller still but made with extraordinary craftsmanship, its lower layers clad in pink granite. Each pyramid had its own mortuary temple, causeway, and valley temple connected to the Nile, forming vast complexes of devotion and ceremony. The construction of these pyramids required not only engineering brilliance but also deep religious conviction. To the Egyptians, building a pyramid was an act of worship. Each one represented the sacred mound that first emerged from the primeval waters of creation. The pyramid's shape, rising to a point, symbolized the sun's rays and the pharaoh's journey to join the sun god Ra in the heavens. Every block placed was a prayer, every line drawn was a reflection of cosmic order, or Ma'at, the divine balance of the universe. Over time, pyramid building evolved and then declined. Later pharaohs of the 5th and 6th dynasties continued to build, but their pyramids were smaller and less durable, often made with mud brick cores instead of solid limestone. The most famous of these later pyramids belonged to Pharaoh Unas, whose burial chamber walls were inscribed with the pyramid texts, the oldest known religious writings in the world. These spells and hymns were meant to guide the king through the afterlife, ensuring his safe passage among the stars. Eventually, the cost of building such immense monuments became too great. Egypt's resources stretched thin, and the central power of the pharaohs weakened. By the time of the Middle and New Kingdoms, rulers were buried in hidden tombs in the Valley of the Kings rather than in massive pyramids. The age of the Great Pyramids had ended, but their legacy endured. As centuries passed, the pyramids became weathered, their smooth casing stones stripped away for later building projects, leaving the rough cores we see today. Yet even in ruin, they command awe. When ancient Greek travelers like Herodotus visited Egypt, they could not believe humans had built such structures. Legends spread that giants, or gods, or lost civilizations had raised them. But the truth is simpler and more inspiring. They were built by human hands, guided by genius, driven by faith, and united by purpose. Modern archaeology has revealed much, yet the pyramids still hold mysteries. We can measure their angles, decode their hieroglyphs, and reconstruct their building methods, but we cannot fully grasp the experience of those who stood in the desert heat thousands of years ago, carving eternity from stone. Each block was a promise to a god-king that he would live forever, and, in a sense, he did. The pyramids became eternal symbols of Egypt itself, strength, endurance, and the human desire to reach beyond life into the infinite. Today, millions visit Giza each year to stand before the Great Pyramid and feel what the ancients must have felt, that strange mix of smallness and wonder. The desert may shift, the winds may howl, but the pyramids remain, watching the sunrise over the Nile as they have for 40 centuries. They are not just relics of the past but reminders of what humans can achieve when they believe in something greater than themselves. Long before steel, electricity, or modern science, ancient Egyptians built mountains of eternity, and they still speak, silently but powerfully, to the soul of mankind. The Egyptian pyramids are more than stone. They are the heartbeat of an ancient faith, the echo of divine ambition, and the proof that even in death, humanity dreams of forever.